Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Transitioning to the New Business Administrator Apprenticeship Standards. Before I introduce our speakers, I'd like to explain a few things about our webinar platform to allow you to get the most out of the experience. All viewers will be in listen-only mode. To engage with the webinar, please use the on-screen panel. Using the tabs of this panel, you can adjust your audio settings and use the question tab to engage with us. We expect that our webinar will be extremely popular, but our team will do our best to answer your questions and queries. During our webinar, we will be running a number of polls. To record your response, please click on the on-screen voting button when asked to do so. After the webinar, we will be providing a recording, a copy of the slides, and a Q&A document to answer any unanswered questions. I'd now like to introduce our speakers, Mandy Slaney, Sylvia Sims, and Juicy Poliseno from City and Guilds, and our special guest speaker, Tom Pearce, who's a Talent Services Executive from Grant Thornton. Tom has coordinated the Business Skills Trailblazer Group and has overseen the development of the Business Administration Standard from inception through to full government approval. So we'll be getting his insights later. And now I'd like to hand over to Mandy, who will be talking us through.
Hi, please. Great. It's great you can join us today. The real aim of today is really we want to help and support you to plan and deliver the business administrator standards. You know, there's lots of questions around how we're going to deliver, so hopefully from today you'll feel more comfortable in being able to do that. We'll also provide background, a little bit why, you know, about the reforms and the transition, and obviously Tom will give you some insights as to how the standards have evolved and what's involved in them. We'll talk a lot about the standard and assessment plan, and really just things for you to think about and consider, and hopefully you can help plan. And really the key thing for us is how can we support you, whether it's with the delivery or the endpoint assessment. And there will be lots of ongoing webinars going forward. This really is just a start and an introduction today. So the overview of the apprenticeship reforms. So really, you know, where have they come from? What is it about? The apprenticeships are changing, and really, you know, it is a key part for you to be involved in. Initially, it's obviously about the employers now, and they are in control. They've designed these new apprenticeships, and so they've had more involvement and will have going forward. And I think that's one of the key things that hopefully as part of the webinar we will be sort of reinforcing, that the employer involvement from day one is absolutely crucial in the success of the apprenticeships. It will allow more flexibility. So now, you know, when you look at the SASE frameworks, you know, it was qualification, whereas now it is flexible delivery that you can tailor to the learner and the employer. The funding simplifies, so it's a lot easier for the funding, and also the effectiveness of the training, and that's what, you know, came out from the employer groups, is really wanted these to be effective. So planning. So the reforms are happening, they're here now, so what do you need to plan? So there is, I think, a lot of concern, certainly that we've received, around the readiness, and everybody's at different levels of competence around this. Some providers and employers have started delivering the new standards, some are waiting, and I think it's really, the presentation today is to really sort of see where you are you on track, what else do you need to help you get there? Whatever it is, we can help you with the different stages of that. Yeah. So the options available. So there is the SASE frameworks are still there and still live. So at the moment we've got providers that are still continuing the SASE frameworks. And it is a decision. Are you ready? You know, what are your plans? Are you going to stay with SASE, or actually stay with SASE for now, or even perhaps do some pilots on the new apprenticeship standards, move everything away across to the new standards today, or, you know, just plan? It may be, you know, the certain areas that you're looking at is which standards are you actually going to be delivering in. So I'll hand over to Tom now, Tom Pearce, and he'll just give you a little bit background to the apprenticeship standard.
Hello, hi. So Mandy asked me to speak just to share the employer group perspective, really, and for reference, the standard and assessment plan are about 2.5 years in development. So we kicked off the process January 2015, and we started just from a point of kind of relatively little understanding and wanting to reflect on our own organisations and what could work there. We then undertook the largest survey of apprentices that had been carried out to see what they benefited from and what they appreciated in the existing framework, and set about creating that standard over the next 12 months. So that was provisionally approved in January 2016, and the assessment planning then started. So we were holding monthly drafting sessions with the employer group, and there's some notable names on there that you'd recognise. So the likes of BT, Boots, Thames Valley Police, Peugeot, Staco, Serco. So great employers to input, and we also had the Federation of Small Businesses, because we were conscious that we wanted to see this delivered in organisations of all sizes. So we've hopefully achieved that. The assessment plan, we set out to achieve it as a new standard, as a new apprenticeship scheme, and wanted to reflect our needs as employers. So you'll see in there that there's an emphasis on digital skills and coaching and working across different teams. And just reflecting on our own organisations, we saw that these are increasingly important skills, and particularly in an administrative type function. So we try to then build on that further in the assessment planning aspects. So it should push the apprentice slightly outside of their comfort zone in putting together, say, recommendations for improvements that is required for the project presentation, and capturing different aspects of the learning on programme to then talk about at interview, where those aspects will be assessed. And the knowledge test should establish kind of a basis of core knowledge on some of the, say, laws and regulations that they might come into contact with in their role. So it's quite a comprehensive standard, hopefully not too comprehensive to be able to deliver. And I'm happy to take any questions on the kind of employer group rationale, really, on what we included in there. We had the funding band increased to 5,000. So it was initially came in at 3,500. So we wanted to achieve that just to provide some scope and flexibility in delivering. And again, would welcome any feedback on that. Throughout the process, we engaged with providers and assessors. So there's over 130 providers on the provider readiness group. We also spoke at the business-related skills forum that was organised by ELP. And the feedback throughout that was really useful. Naturally, as a group of employers, we're very much seeing it from our perspective, so we're keen to get that input. So yeah, hopefully the end result is good and looks popular. We're expecting probably 8,000 to 12,000 learners on that. At the moment, a level 2 standard isn't being developed. And it is something that was proposed, and we were approached as an employer group on whether we'd want to be involved. So some employers were keen on that, and it was about maybe 9 months ago now that I think it was DFE at the time said that it didn't feel different enough from level 3. So I'm sure there'll be a kind of varying range of opinions out there, but as far as I know, level 2's not currently being developed. So if that's useful for your reference, then yeah, please take that as a bit of an update. Okay, well, yeah, any questions later on in the session, I'd be happy to take. I'll hand back to Sylvia now.
So, what is the business apprenticeship standard all about? Let's have a look. These are the key documents and the key points to bear in mind. We have the standard. The standard is only 2 pages. It's not too difficult to pick up, look at, and try and digest. We have the assessment plan, which is very involved, and we also have the endpoint assessment part. The competency-based program that assesses the individual's ability to carry out a specified job role will be against the national recognised standard. It puts employers in the driving seat in terms of design. This is where you really will need to communicate well with your employer group. It will be linked to specific job roles and levels and will eventually end with an endpoint assessment. The programme is expected to last a minimum of 12 months, but can take up to 18.
This slide now is really just showing you, you know, the SASE framework and how that works. So you have the initial assessment, you have on the job, in the business administration, you have the qualification, the diploma in business administration, and then you have the completion certificate, and then the overall arching certificate for that. Now, the changes on the new apprenticeship standards, what you've got the initial assessment, and that doesn't go away, and that is actually crucial going forward. Initial assessment and the skills scan really are, you know, crucial in the to ensure that the actual apprentice is right, you know, the standard is right for them. Are they in a current job role that they are going to be able to achieve all the different aspects of the standard? So can they cover everything that's within the standard? So you really need to ensure that you know, they can do that from the very start. And again, that's what I said earlier, the employer involvement, you know, is really crucial for that. The key thing around that, it may be their particular job role, they can't cover all the, across all the standards, all the different skills, behaviours that they're going to need. So it may be that the organisation would be able to, that they could move job roles around, so they could cover different aspects. So for instance, it may be social media, you know, they might not cover any sides of any areas of that, but it may be that they could move into different departments to enable them to learn the skills and knowledge for them to be able to be competent in that area, which would really broaden, you know, their overall achievement and the skills and competence at the end of it. Then we've got the gateway, and that's very different. So obviously the provider and employers will make sure, work with the learners on programme, making sure that, you know, they've got the skills and knowledge, and they are ready for the gateway. And that's crucial that the employer and the provider and the learner agree that they are ready to go forward for gateway. At that point, it hands over to the endpoint assessment organisation, who will then conduct the endpoint assessment, which is totally independent. And then there's the completion and certification, which the endpoint assessment organisation would process, and the overall occupational competence. Off-the-job training. Now, this is one of the key questions that we get asked all the time: is how can we do the, you know, 20%? How can we log it? How do we work with employers on this? And I think again, this is where the employer involvement is so important. That, you know, you plan from the beginning, how are we going to get the 20%? You know, what commitment do the employers have to give? Do they do off-the-job training? You know, and the plan should be an agreed plan, a three-way plan, and you need to look at all the different types of training and off-the-job that the learner could do and that you can plan. What I would say around that is certainly what we are seeing is every single learner and every single employer that may work differently for. Some organisations are planning to pull learners off the job to do that. Others are planning where they do so much time within the week, and it's a planned, but it has to be planned, and I think that's a crucial part of it.
So let's have a look at these key documents in more detail. It's important all your team have a copy of these. I find unless you actually look at the standard, the assessment plan and the endpoint assessment, then you can't get a full picture of what is required. And we will go into more detail on these as we go forward.
I've got a quick poll for you. You're going to see it flash up on your screen very, very shortly. So I'll read out the question. If you could choose your answer. The question is, we're very interested to know, what is your centre currently offering? The options that you have are SASE Business Administration Framework, Business Admin, the new standards, both or neither. Okay, I'm going to share the results with you now. As you can see, actually pretty evenly split between those of you on the old frameworks and those of you who are offering a hybrid of both. So that's really interesting for us to know.
Right, back to me. We're going to look at the standard now in a bit more depth. For the knowledge, it's all about what your learner actually knows. Do they know it? Do they know about the organisation, the policies, the regulations, the business fundamentals? Can they show it? Can they show it through use of IT, documentation, interpersonal skills? Can they plan and organise? Are they able to understand what project management is all about? And that is one area they will need to be able to be trained on. Behaviours is all about how they live it. They need to be able to show their professionalism, their personal qualities, their adaptability and their responsibilities. Let's have a look at behind those words. So, skills will be found within the decision making and the learner's interpersonal skills. The knowledge can be seen through the organisation's purpose, the vision for the future. Behaviours, although it may be a new area for some, can be demonstrated through the learner's integrity, reliability, self-motivation, as well as the adaptability of showing how they cope with change within their own job role or indeed the organisation. This, for me, is the most important piece of paper you will ever want to look at. For me, if you haven't got this document, it's the annex to the assessment and grading criteria. Please ensure you look at it carefully. To help you understand how it's presented, we'll look at the IT module of the standard. So the standard quite clearly lays out to you exactly what is required for that particular standard. Use of IT packages, systems, being able to write letters, emails, use different types of software packages. The assessment method, and I actually highlight these in different colours so that I can see whether a particular method is going to be assessed in different formats. And as you can see from this particular module, the IT standard, the assessment method is in the portfolio-based interview and also the project improvement presentation. And just to clarify that, they're either going to produce a project or they can produce an improvement plan. What you see then are the actual grades for fail, pass and distinction. This standard will have fail, pass and distinction only. To support you in delivery, if you're needing to deliver the new standard now, we have produced a business administrator standard mapping document. This can already be found on our website under the existing framework qualification number, which is 5528, which I'm sure a lot of you will recognise. And for those of you who may not be delivering it at the moment, if you go to our website and put into the search engine 5528, it'll bring up the standard for you and just go into the level 3 and you will find the mapping document there. By using the unit suggested, you will be in a position to deliver the standard now if you wish. Yeah. Right. Entry requirements for EPA. Learners will, if not already acquired, level 2 English and Maths before they complete the full apprenticeship. The portfolio must be completed prior from 3 to 12 months onwards. The gateway can be triggered after 12 months of starting the apprenticeship, and completion of the gateway declaration form takes place. Booking of the EPA is 90 days in advance. The assessment and grading for the 3 areas, as you can see, the method for the knowledge test is 60 minutes. The project improvement presentation is 20 to 30 minutes. And the, sorry, I put that the wrong way around. I do apologise. We do make mistakes occasionally. The portfolio-based interview is 30 to 45 minutes, and the project improvement presentation is 20 to 30. More on these will follow, obviously, with grading. So what we have for the knowledge test, for a fail, is less than 60. You can see for a pass, it's 60 to 79%. And for a distinction, it's 80% and over. And obviously the same applies to the portfolio-based interview and the project presentation. Okay. The assessment is completed online for the knowledge test. It will last 60 minutes and will have 50 equally weighted multiple choice questions with 4 possible answers. I advise you to go to that annex again and have a look to see what areas and criteria of the standard will be assessed through this method. Portfolio-based interview will be submitted to the EPAO, that's the Independent Endpoint Assessment Organisation, a month prior to interview. This will give the independent endpoint assessor an opportunity to view the content and prepare in advance. It is likely the interview will be remote and will assess the understanding of the portfolio. Develop up-to-date competence will allow for self-reflection of performance, knowledge and applied appropriate skills and behaviours. It will enable judgment of the learner's understanding to explain examples. Evidence could include practical observation and or evaluation by the employer. This will be particularly important when looking at the project or the improvement with the employer and getting their comments. That can also be used as evidence. The portfolio should include 1 piece of evidence for each of the minimum knowledge, skills and behaviours. A minimum of 8 to 12 pages is expected and should be holistic. Project improvement presentation is likely also to be completed remotely. Presentation should last between 10 to 15 minutes with an additional 10 to 15 minutes for question and answer session. Guidance from the employer and training provider to support the chosen project or improvement in line with the standard indicated in the annex. Presentation should be produced using appropriate software demonstrating their minimum level on IT skills and effective communication in delivery.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go quickly to our second poll question. You'll see it again pop up on your screen in a second. This question is, do you think the numbers of business admin apprentices for the standard will increase? And the options you have are yes, no, or maybe. Okay, that's really quite interesting. Majority of you said no, and then 30% maybe, but 20% yes. That's great for us to know.
Okay, so let's have a look at that project improvement presentation a little bit more. With guidance from your EPO, will normally be completed from month 9 and prior to the EPA being triggered. It will be submitted to the EPA also so that the IEPA will have the opportunity to be able to make decisions and relevant questions that they will ask the learner after they've done the presentation. The project or process should also account for 21 to 35 working hours and be work-based. The EPA pack for planning and delivery for centres, customers and employers will include the standard, guidance on how to book EPA, as well as prepare for the portfolio-based interview and the project improvement presentations, and how they will be assessed, as shown in the index. Guidance on examples of possible evidence and a separate pack with recording forms.
I'm just going to talk you through the timelines now. One of the key things for me to reinforce really is we have to be on the register of endpoint assessment organisation as an approved organisation. That's only recent, the window for that has only recently opened, so we will be submitting an application next week to actually go on to register. So until the point that we are actually approved, there is only a limited information. We can't advertise endpoint assessment. So really we are talking you through the process, when we'll have things available to support you, and we will make sure that you know as soon as we have been approved on the register. So looking at timeframes, that's in November. We will then start recruiting endpoint assessors, which will go on and through to May. The guidance pack, the EPA guidance pack, will be available in May, along with a recording pack, which will recording forms for the endpoint assessment. We'll also have endpoint assessment resources available, which will help prepare the learners for endpoint assessment. We'll have the EPA booking reservation, so basically that's when you can actually go on and book a reservation, which we need 90 days lead in, so that will open in July 18, ready for the first EPAs to be available in October 18. We'll also start the training for the assessors, which will be in June, so that they are absolutely up to date before the first assessments take place. In between the June on the first training, we will then do a refresher, so right before the actual EPA commences. So the offer, how can we help support you? So I'll just talk you through the things that will be available. So apprenticeship training manual, I'm not sure if any of you are aware in delivering the customer service practitioner, but the training manual will be very similar to the customer service practitioner. We also have tutor content support, which is skills scans, delivery models. Also we are developing a brand new qualification, which is MAT 100% to the new standard. We've already created a map into existing document, business administration, and that is available on the website now. We'll also have lots of support around maths and English, sample knowledge tests to help the learner prepare for the endpoint assessment knowledge test, maths and mapping to maths and English. So we'll have lots of high quality teaching learning resources, systems as well to actually so you can track learner process, and the option of an optional qualification. So this is really just talking you through it, so all the different resources now will help you. So you can track the learner progress, particularly 20%. Make sure the learners are well prepared for endpoint assessment. There's lots of range of qualifications. Although we are developing a brand new business administrator qualifications, we have lots of small business qualifications that might also fit. And also flexibility to suit lots of people. There's lots of resources available on our website, one for employers, one for providers. If you've not accessed these, please go onto the website because they are really useful. Training manual, so as I alluded to before, we are developing an apprenticeship training manual for business administrator, which will be 30 tasks broken down, and really that has the standard in there, and it allows the learner to sort of apply their knowledge and do different tasks, and also reflect on knowledge and skills, and you can see where the areas that they need to build. Learner support, there will be lots of learners and tutor support that will come through, and that will be available on our smart screen platform. So this is actually how it will look on we have an e-portfolio system called Learning Assistant. So this is actually how it will look on that system. So basically the tasks are available, so you can actually do them electronically. If you have your own e-portfolio system, that you can actually, we will have access to electronic versions. So we have the hard copy of the training manual, or there will be ones that you'll be able to buy the package that you can upload onto your system. Lots of support around maths and English, so that's just really a few of the things that are there. So with lots of qualifications, learning resources, and also workforce support. So please go on our website, because you know there are lots of free resources on there, as well as ones that you can actually purchase to help support the delivery of the functional skills to help the learners be able to succeed in their apprenticeship. So timelines for the on-programme, so the mapping is already there. We've started scoping the qualification. We've started the first webinar, which is today, and we will be doing ongoing webinars. We've got another webinar planned for December, which is really around it's a generic webinar, and the different aspects of what does a showcase look like, what does a professional discussion, all the different types of endpoint assessment, where and not just for the business administrators, there may be other ones that might be really useful to help you prepare for endpoint assessment. We also have the training manual that will be available in PDF version on our SmartScreen platform to purchase in December, the mapping of the Maths and English in January. Qualification launch date will be April 2018, and if you are a centre already and delivering the existing Diploma in Administration 5528, there will be a fast track form, and the actual hard copy of the apprenticeship training manual will be available in April. Then we'll have lots of ongoing tutor support. That will be on programme support, but also endpoint assessment as well. We'll also have the sample tests, and the actual knowledge test will be live. How it works, and this really is just a process of the learner journey and how that will work. So obviously if you look, this is from recruitment right way through to endpoint assessment. So it shows you all the different stages and how that works, how you would register. We do have a document on the website which talks you through EPA registrations and how that works, the approval for endpoint assessment. So please log on and use all the resources that are there to help support you. And then you'll see the EPA and how does that work, how do you book it, how long do you need to give in order to pre-plan that and book it with us, and the certification, which is done by City and Guilds, and the overall claim to the ESFA. These are a couple of the email addresses where there is, we can provide additional support. But also, if you've got, I'm sure you'll have lots of questions after today. There is an inbox, apprenticeships@cityandguilds.com. Please use the website and the inbox to ask any questions that you have from today. I'd just like to say thank you very much from all of us here.
Brilliant. So we've got one final poll question, which we'll ask you now, and then we'll go to a Q&A session. So the poll question is going to pop up on your screen in a second. This final question is, what's the greatest challenge to your staff delivering the new standard? And the options we have are lack of knowledge and understanding, unsure of specific job roles and responsibilities, understanding of EPA, the role of the IQA, or interest from employers. Okay, so 35% you said lack of knowledge and understanding, followed by 28% interest from employers. That's really interesting. I'm sure we'll have a lot of thought over that. So we're going to have a Q&A session now, give you a chance to ask your questions to our panelists. If you type in any questions you want to get answered into the questions tab, we'll come around and answer them for you shortly.
Hi, so we've now got some questions in. Thank you very much. we'll begin to answer the questions that have been raised, and we will also be doing some questions and answers that will be sent out afterwards. So one of the questions, the mapping documents require a password. Yes, they do, and that is available to our centres on the walled garden.
Sharon's asked an interesting question. What is the role of the IQA moving forward? The centres that I have been into recently and over the past few months, this is an area I find, Sharon, I think is extremely important. The role of the IQA now is far, far greater than it's ever been before. When you think about the IQA with the framework standards, you sample portfolios across a cohort against an assessor, and you judge that that assessor is still competent in delivering that particular standard. Now, when we look at the new standard and the way forward, that IQA will need to feel confident that every single person they're going to put through the gateway will have the opportunity to pass the EPA. So for me, I think raising that question is very important, Sharon, and I'm pleased you did. It is important that the IQA, no matter what you call them in your centre, it is a very, very important role.
One question raised by Carol. Are the resources support workbooks ready and available now? There will be a PDF version of the training manual that will be available to purchase via Smart Screen from December. All the tasks have been written and they're now being edited and uploaded onto the Smart Screen. We will send an alert out as soon as they've been updated. The existing question by Rachel, will the existing 552803 standards still be available? Yes, currently there is no switch off date for the existing standards at present. Do we have any prices for the EPA and new qualification? Unfortunately, until we are approved on the register, we cannot disclose any of the prices for that. As soon as with regards to the qualification, as soon as that has been finalised and developed, we will then be able to let you know the prices of the qualification. One of the questions here is around, will the medical be affected? A part of the business administrator. You can carry on with the SASE existing frameworks at the moment, as we said. So if you're using the medical pathway, that will you can just continue on that route. The new form of assessment for the new qualification will be portfolio. So that will be very similar to the existing diploma, but it will be actually written to the new standard. There will also be an evolved test within the qualification as well. What admin calls can we offer employees new to admin? Some of the criteria would be too difficult for them to achieve. I would certainly recommend that you look at some of the short courses for business admin. There's lots of little ones that are actually still live on the system that are really useful for bite sizes that may be useful for the employer, but please do email the inbox if you want more information, and then we can ensure that you're guided to the right numbers and you can find them on the website, so you can have a look through the handbooks to see if they would be suitable. Just have a look at some other ones. Where are the endpoint assessments pack available from? They will be uploaded onto the website on the time frames that are in the time frame that we gave earlier, which will be emailed out to you. So yes, they will be on the website, password protected. There is one there already for customer service practitioners, so if you wanted to have a look and you are a City and Guilds centre, please go and have a look, because you can see the layout of it and how, what information is in that pack.
Yeah, so we've got a question in. It's Tom, just trying to share the employer group perspective here. So we've had a question on whether the NHS were involved. We did have someone from the NHS join for one of the later stage assessment planning sessions, and I'm not sure why they didn't get involved earlier in the process, but it was useful to have that So I don't think there was anything particularly sensational that they took objection with from memory. And yes, in answer to the question, the NHS was involved.
One of the questions, if we use C&G standards, can C&G be our approved EPA for apprentices currently signed onto the BNA standard? There's two parts really, I suppose two hats. If you're delivering qualifications, that would sit under, that would just be the same as it is now. So you would have an external quality assurance visit, and that would still go, that would sit completely separate. So the endpoint assessment and on program is two separate activities really. So you would still get EQA visits only if you are going to deliver the accredited City and Guilds qualifications. One of the questions that's coming is around really about the level 2 and what could you do, what if you've got learners that are level 2 and then are not just, wouldn't be able to do the level 3 or not in the, the right environment to do that. One of the things that some organisations are actually looking at is, would the customer service practitioner level 2 be appropriate? And what I would say is this is one of the key things. You really do need to look at their role profile to ensure that they would be able to achieve that standard. Because one of the key things in that is, do they have any face-to-face contact with them, with customers? And is that part of their job role, or are they just in an office environment and they don't have any, sort of contact with them? Customers. So I think you really need to ensure, do a skills scan and make sure that that is the right standard. What we have tried to do to support this is we have developed a customer service practitioner qualification, and we've actually put a business administration pathway in there, really because if you did have somebody that's in a business environment but they want to do the customer service practitioner, they could actually do the business unit as an optional unit.
We've got another one from Sharon. What are the requirements, qualifications required to become an EPA? We have got an application form now that's on the City and Guilds website for anybody who wants to apply to be an EPA. Basically, we would certainly be looking for people who've got the assessor qualification and have been delivering business administration for a while, so that you understand the occupational industry itself. And communication skills, to be fair, are very, very important for an EPA. So we would certainly be looking at how you filled your application form in and what details you've given us, so that we can make a judgment for taking you forward.
There was a question from Cheryl. What if they fail endpoint assessment? There are 3 pieces of assessment, so there will be an opportunity to resit each of the 3 assessments, and we have monthly windows available from October.
One of the questions from Sarah, is the customer service standard running at the same timelines as business admin? Actually, that's live now, and if you actually put 9794 into our system and 2794, which is a qualification, you will see everything about the customer service practitioner. So we are live for the on-program support, the qualification, and the endpoint assessment. So the endpoint assessment guidance document is there on the website, available, password protected.
There was also a question, where can you find the mapping document? You were looking on Walled Garden. If you type 552803, at the bottom of it will be a document called, a link called mapping document, and there is where the password will be available.
Heidi, you're asking that your employers are asking you what they need to do for their learner to gain the new BA level 3. Basically, as I said during the presentation, do have a look at the assessment plan and the annex especially. Take that with you and show it to the employer and see what activities that will be automatically available to that apprentice within that employer job role. Where there are gaps, then that's where you can start talking to the employer about how you'll be able to support the learner to enable them to cover those gaps, whether it be going to a different department. This will work perfectly for the larger organisations, but obviously with smaller ones, you're going to have to be a little bit imaginative, and we will try and support you on that as well.
David's asked, will we have a skills scan for the customer service practitioner? We will be developing that as part of the ongoing extra resources for the customer service practitioner. So I can provide timelines on that if you would like to drop me an email. One of the questions there, I'm sure lots of people are thinking this, asking, is around resits. Yes, there will be. You will be able to do resits, but there will be an additional cost for that. But that will be broken down by each component. So you will be able to do a resit for whichever component that they have failed.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to our panellists, and thank you very much for dialing in to watch us today. If you want to get involved with more webinars, please look at our website, our events page, or sign up to email updates. The link will be in this presentation. We'll send it out to you. So thanks again for attending, and we hope to see you soon.